Okay, Mazda BT50 or Ford Ranger 3.2 front crank seal. Okay, we're gonna tackle this job and show you what we need to do. This will show you what the seal looks like. This is our new one here. Okay, so what you've got is you've got these three lugs, three holes that the special tool fits into. If you don't have a special tool, you can make something up just to fit those. We're going to try and get hold of a special tool. But you'll see on the back here, these lugs here. So this needs to be twisted anti-clockwise to pull it out, and then go in and twist back in. That's the reason for those lugs and the special tool. Alright, let's dig in. We'll start getting some stuff out of the way. Okay, so you can see down here where our crank seal is leaking, and it's been thrown around. This actually threw a drive belt off and then chewed it up in the back of here, and that's why it's damaged the seal. Okay, so first thing we're going to do underneath, obviously under trays are off. We're going to undo the bottom piece of this fan shroud, and there's just a clip up here. Pull it down, pull that side out. Same on the other side. I'll need to get my hand up there, and then this bottom piece will just lift out. Okay, so the other side of that lower piece of the radiator, the clip's easier to get at from the top. You'll see it down here. I've just got a bit of coolant draining because we're going to need to get the top radiator hose and this out of the way. Okay, so that is draining. Also just pulled this air tube off here, just the two screw clamps. Pull that off and just up out of the way. Don't need to take that other hose off. Now we're going to take our drive belt off. In the tensioner down here we have a 1/2 inch drive slot that we need to turn clockwise to loosen the belt. Just take note of your belt routing as well. Draw yourself a picture so you know how to put it back on. Okay, so now the drive belt is off. We've got our top radiator hose off, and once the coolant's down to that level you can stop draining it, because that's as far as you need to get. And then this one, if you just push the grey tabs on either side in, you'll be able to pull that off. If it's tight, push it in a bit first and then out. Okay, so we're just going to actually take that line right off, because these are the sorts of fragile things that get broken on bigger jobs like this. So I'm just going to undo these two bolts here to move that out of the way and take that right out. Also with your drive belt you can pin your tensioner. Okay, there's a pin hole there, and that'll just help it be in an easier position when you go back on. The reason the drive belt failed on this one was actually the alternator clutch pulley, and I'll have another video on that. Once I get that uploaded I'll chuck it on the end screen. The tensioners also fail on this, which you'll get a link through the different videos. You'll get a link to both of those issues. But yep, next job, once we get that out, is going to be to pull out this top part of the fan shroud, and there's just these clips here. Just pull them back and that tab will come out, one on either side. Okay, so with those tabs pulled back, that fan shroud will just lift up. You just got to work it around here and work the base around your fan. That will lift out. Next thing is to get rid of our fan. So we've got 1, 2, 3 under there bolts. Get out of there, they look about 15 mil. Yep, 15 mil bolts. So we'll undo those, and this whole fan unit with the pulley will come out of the way. Okay, so the crank pulley has 3 15 mil bolts in it. Okay, so we have tried a short impact gun that fits up in here. Okay, and they won't undo it on this. These ones are actually quite tight. So two options now. One is to remove the radiator, okay, which means I have to drain the rest of the coolant out, take that hose off, that hose, and then undo the top mounts, basically pull it forward and see what needs to happen with this aircon condenser to get that out. You can see that is mounted with the radiator, but there should be a way once you pull it forward to sort of work that off and get the radiator out. We're just going to try one other tool first to see if we can undo these. So this is the other tool we've tried, which is a special gooseneck thing for doing crank pulleys, and then you hit the top with a hammer. That is also not undoing them, so we might have to pull this radiator, so we'll drain the rest of the fluid out. Okay, so coolant is drained, hose is off the bottom. Now we're just going to take this shroud off just with these plastic clips, just to get that out of the way. Okay, sorry, 10mm bolts. Undo the 10mm bolts so we can lean that forward now. And now there's 10mm bolts down here for our aircon condenser. So we'll take them off so we can lift that condenser out of the radiator. Okay, and then at the same time we'll work this out of here. You don't want to force this out too much because you don't want to break that pipe. Okay, so now we've lifted the aircon condenser out of the mounts at the bottom, and we've been able to lift our radiator out of its mounts at the side, push it back. Now we'll tilt it up and work it out off this. Okay, we did also just undo this intercooler hose just to give a bit more movement this way, but it's just a matter of working it around all of this. You don't want to undo anything on your aircon obviously, because you can't release gas into the atmosphere. It's very bad for it and also illegal, and will cost a lot to regas. Okay, so that's now out of the way. We can now get a bigger rattle gun or impact gun onto these bolts. Cool, so now with our slightly bigger gun in there, we can get these undone. Just a quick tip, if you've got something like this, like a radiator or an aircon condenser, and your gun is too close to it and you're worried about it hitting it as it does, what you can do is just grab some cardboard and you can just tape it to it like that, just to protect that surface, so if anything bumps it, you're not going to pierce a hole in it and cause yourself dramas. Just a quick tip. Okay, so now we've got that off. The one thing I did do was I just marked where the top of it was before I took it off, so we don't have to worry about it being keyed or anything. I'm not sure if the holes are, asymmetric. They probably are, but just knowing where that is, and now we won't turn the crank over, it'll make it easy to get it in the right place going back on. It also means if they aren't asymmetric, that in terms of balance, the pulley itself is in the right place. Okay, you also want to look out for the little shim spacer that fits on the front of the crank here. Watch that it doesn't fall off when you take the crank pulley off, and just make sure that you put it back on reassembly too. It's a very thin shim that just fits right on the front there. Cool, so this one, there is probably not much left of the seal because it had all the drive belt in there, so the seal was basically gone from this one. We'll just have to pull that little metal shim out and give it all a good clean up. Make sure that crank is nice and clean before our new seal goes on. Okay, so if you've got one like ours that has broken the seal out, you'll probably end up with this back half of the seal stuck in the cover. So it's a matter of getting it in the right position so the lugs line up with the holes, and then just sort of prying it out of there, trying not to damage where the lugs go in the cover because it's pretty thin metal. And then just trying to work it around, get everything lined up for it to come right out. Or the other thing we can do now we've got it out that far is we'll just cut it. Cool, so by getting it out far enough to cut off where one of the lugs was, then we can work it out through that. Okay, so we're all cleaned up in here now. Of course you need to get all this inside part really clean for the seal to go into. Okay, it's actually a real job doing this. Just if you've had a drive belt that has come off and it's got all stuck in here, then it basically melts the drive belt to this. And yeah, it's really hard to get off. Basically chiseling it with a screwdriver just to break it away, trying not to damage that surface, but we will just put a bit of silicone around here just to take up any imperfections, particularly ones we've created in this surface around the outside here. So yeah, make sure your crank's all nice and clean. Okay, and then this is our seal, and that's our special tool. Okay, we have managed to borrow one. Which is a lot easier than making one, but you can, if you need to, you can make something like that just with a few bolts or roll pins into a plate. And then yeah, just something on the back of it so you can turn it. But yeah, we will use the proper tool since we can get it. And what we're going to do, so this inner part, that's just our application sleeve. Okay, so that's actually going to come out as the seal goes on. So what we're going to do, we're just going to get a bit of rubber grease and just put it around this edge just to help that as it passes through the seal. Okay, so we've got a bit of rubber grease around this edge here, and we've got silicone around the outside of the seal. The reason I've done it that way is so that as it goes in, any excess silicone is going to be pushed out. So that all the excess can just be wiped away. If I put it in there, then the excess would be pushed in. Okay, for how much effort it is to clean up those surfaces, it's well worth considering just getting a new timing cover, depending on price, etc. of course, but yeah, for the amount of work, it is worth considering that. Okay, so that inner part of the tool fits over the crank of the application sleeve. That'll fit over the crank. So first thing we're going to do is get this thing onto the crankshaft itself, just by pushing it over this sleeve. Okay, and then that can pull out. Now we need that. Just turn that to a position. Just going to turn into place. Feel when it stops. Right, it's pretty clear where the stop is there. Okay, and now we can wipe away all that excess. there's our seal in place, and now we can clean up our crank pulley and put that back on and basically reassemble from here. Okay, if you want to make a tool and you want to work ahead of time, I've just measured off this tool. So basically the outer ring is 94 millimeters in diameter, 7 mils off. The edge is the center of each pin, so 7 mils in from the edge, and the pins are spaced 70 mil apart. Each pin is 6 mil in diameter, the center is 50 mil in diameter, and it is 27 mil deep. You can make it deeper, of course, give yourself a bit more room. But yeah, the seal is not very tight to put in, so yeah, it doesn't need to be super fancy. We've used that obviously because it's easier, but that gives you an idea of how to make it. Sorry, that one should be going to the center. It's the center of that hole would be 7 mils in from the edge. Okay. I just had the thought too, another way you could potentially do this would be to grab an oil filter tool like this, the 3-clawed oil filter tool, and you could just weld 6 mil bolts on it, or you could grind these down to have little 6 mil pins on it. Probably want to cut them a bit and then grind. And you could probably might need, yeah, you just have to work out those distances, make sure you can get them 70 mil apart. This one's slightly big, so you'd want to weld 6 mil bolts to the insides of these so that they can get a bit smaller. This is just a power built one, it'll be pretty generic, but yeah, because the seals are not very tight going in, and these will sort of go both ways. The things just flip over so you can tighten and loosen. So yeah, that would be a quick, easy way to do it, I would say. Just modify one of those. Okay, so the bolts in here are 45 Newton meters plus 120 degrees. You should be really using new bolts because they're taught to yield, but that's up to you. Now it's just radiator, and don't forget to connect up this intercooler over here. Okay, so everything's back together, filled up with coolant, pressure tested, been for a road test, big long road test, and you can see we are clean as under here now. Okay, so if you have a Mazda BT50 or Ford Ranger 3.2L, 3.2 litre motor, diesel motor, with a front crank seal, or you've had a drive belt break. If you've had a broken drive belt and it's got stuck in behind that pulley, you're going to have a stuffed seal. So yeah, just dig into it. But that is how you replace the front crank seal on a BT50 or Ranger 3.2 litre. Okay, so I just want to reiterate on this one. Talk to Ford, price up the price of a full front cover. Talking to someone else, they were saying that they normally keep those covers in stock because they're such a replaceable item, and they think also that it comes with the seal. So price up the price of the seal versus the cover, and consider all that extra time you're going to spend if you've had a broken drive belt and it's ripped that seal out. There's all this melted plastic, hard melted plastic. It's a lot of work to get it out of there. And the front cover's not going to be that hard to do. You've got to take like the power steer pump off, and a bracket is only like the extra thing. You're still going to have the sleeve to push the seal over. But yeah, just do consider that and price it up because you might actually find it cheaper and much less of a headache just to do that whole front cover.
Okay, I hope that has helped you out today. Don't forget to click the like button and also click the subscribe while you're there. We've got a bunch of diagnostic solutions and tips and tricks for professional mechanics like ourselves, and also for the serious DIYers at home. So click that subscribe and the bell so you get notified, and we will see you in the next video.